All right, so today I wanted to make a video of my rules and principles to live by. And the first thing that I would mention is a lot of these are ones you've probably heard of, but on the flip side, a lot of these are probably ones you never have heard of. So I'm going to get into it. Again, they are in no particular order. So getting right into it, the first one, crush negativity. Like I say, they're in no particular order. If you get too negative, it will destroy you, right? I've seen it, I've experienced it. If you're too negative, it will kill you, even if everything is going wrong. You're broke, you're homeless, you have whatever. If you're too negative, like you're not benefiting anyone. Like you're not benefiting anyone. So being too negative, and it's natural for a lot of people to want to do it. I mean, we have, an epidemic of depression and anxiety these days. So it's not easy, and I would recommend people get help if they do need it. But you really need to learn to kill negativity. And again, I'm not going to get into all the aspects of that and whatnot. But anyway, number two, uh, deal with problems ASAP, right? So if you have a problem come up and you can deal with it right then and there, deal with it, right? If you have an important phone call you got to make, you make it right then and there. If you have an important email to send, you make it right then and there. Do not put it off, right? If you have a bill to pay, do not put it off, right? Now, again, sometimes you're not going to be able to do it right then and there, but if you can do something about it right then and there, you do it, right? And again, it's not always going to be the best decision in hindsight, but if that's your mindset of just dealing with it ASAP and forgetting about it, you're going to be better off in the long run. Number three, have a killer instinct. This is one that definitely needs some explaining. Anything you do, and I would piggyback it on number four here too, be allergic to average. Anything you do, you really need to want to be the best at, or at the very least, better than where you were before. I don't care what it is, even if it's the slightest thing, even if it's the way you brush your teeth. Like you should always want to be better than where you were before. With other more important things, your finances, your health, your work, your relationships, you should always want to be better than where you were before, right? And the problem I see with most people is that not only are people okay with being average, a lot of people are okay with being below average. A lot of people are okay with living paycheck to paycheck. That's a normal thing for them. A lot of people are okay with being very unhealthy. That's a normal thing for them. And if you want to be successful, or at the very least, if you want to maximize success, you need to not have that mentality. And the whole killer instinct aspect comes into where if you want to be the best, you need to be obsessed with getting better, right? You need to be obsessed with getting better. The people that are the best at what they do, they eat, sleep, and breathe whatever it is they do, right? They are obsessed with it. Any way they can be better, they are doing it. And it's constantly on their mind. Um, Number five, always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. This is another one that I don't think you hear enough. And if everybody did this, society would be so much better off, like so much better off, because a lot of the negative interactions you have in your life, if both sides simply gave the other side the benefit of the doubt, it wouldn't have been a negative interaction, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic, right? Chances are they're not a complete a-hole. Chances are maybe they're late for something. Maybe they're having a bad day, right? Again, like just an example, right? Um, Number six, if you want to improve anything, you need to track it and set goals. Again, if I told someone, oh yeah, I want to lose weight, and people say, well, how much do you weigh? Well, I don't know, right? If I told someone, I want to be the number one salesperson in your job, well, how much are you selling compared to the next best? Well, I don't know. Like you get laughed at, right? So again, if you want to be better at anything, you need to have a way of measuring it, and you need to set goals, and you need to set realistic goals, and you need to achieve those goals. And you need to come up with a plan on how you're going to do it, right? So if you want to lose weight, okay, you need to figure out how much you weigh. You need to figure out how much you want to lose. You need to come up with a realistic time frame to do it, and you need to come up with a plan to do it, right? I'm going to cut out this food, add this food, right? That's really all it takes, right? I mean, if you want to save money, right? I'm going to save this much. I have this investing account or this savings account. I'm going to put this much into it. A lot of these ones nowadays, you can even take it right out of your checking account without even having to do anything. You can set it automatically. So a lot of this stuff nowadays with technology, it's as easy as it's ever been, right? So in my mind, there's no excuse. Take 100% responsibility. This is one you hear a lot. Again, this is another one that if everybody did, society would be so much better off. Just take responsibility, right? Just take responsibility. You know, I had an experience a while back to where, you know, a mistake was made, you know, where I work, someone was pissed off about something. It wasn't really my fault. I maybe could have done something in, you know, hindsight, but at the end of the day, it was a honest mistake, that I think basically nobody would have actually gotten right, and I'm not going to get into it because it's kind of a long story. But what I did is I called the person back afterwards and I said, hey, you know, my mistake, it was on me. I should have been better. And they literally called my boss and said, you know, I had this experience that initially was terrible, but the guy called me, apologized, took responsibility, you know, didn't BS, didn't blame anyone else. And we kept a customer because of that. So again, take 100% responsibility, right? Not that you are literally 100% responsible for everything that goes on in your life. I'm not saying that. But if you just took more responsibility, if everybody did that, society would be a lot better. This is one that I would lay claim to because I've never actually heard this one. I mean, indirectly, but expect quote unquote normal people to think you're weird. If you decide to take your health seriously, if you decide to take your finances seriously, there's a lot of these kind of things. If you decide to stop doing a lot of these negative things that quote unquote average people do, whether it's, you know, drinking or living paycheck to paycheck, being out of shape, eating unhealthy, quote unquote normal people will think you're weird. Right? That's just the way it is. And anybody who has a serious diet, who takes their finances very seriously, I guarantee you have came across this. I have. I know many people that have. That's just the way it is, right? So, and here's the thing: if you want to be a very high achiever in anything, if normal people do not think you're weird for that, you're doing something wrong. I guarantee that. And again, I can give some examples, right? I mean, if you want to be very healthy, normal, and people aren't giving you crap because, oh, why aren't you having dessert? Why aren't you going out drinking on the weekend? Like, if people aren't doing that, you're doing something wrong, right? If people aren't joking, you know, how's your Bitcoin doing? How's your stocks doing? If people aren't doing that, you're doing something wrong. Now, again, not everybody, but there should be some people, again. Number 9, never live above your means. This is one that, again, way too many people do. And again, people make excuses that, whatever excuses people have, I'm not even going to get into it because it's not worth it. If you look at the numbers, even like a third of people making $250,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck, like 50% of people making 6 figures live paycheck to paycheck. So this idea that whatever excuse people are using is the main reason that they're broke, it's BS. Could some of these quote unquote excuses that people use, could they help things out? Could they be fixed a little bit? Absolutely. But the main problem is you continue to make the same stupid decisions over and over again, right? Number 10, always do more than is required of you. Again, this is another one that if everybody did it, society would be way better. And our standard of living would be so high if everybody did this. But the problem is that most people either do, I mean, the average person does just enough to get by, but there's a lot of people that do literally the bare minimum, right? The bare minimum. Probably the majority of people fall into this category, right? So do not let yourself become in this category. And you'll never be a high achiever or really good at anything if this is your mindset, right? Number 11, this is another one you don't hear a lot, but I think is very important. people would almost always rather learn their lesson the hard way, accept that, and avoid being in that group. And again, what do I mean by that? I mean, if you look at society in general, right? Society keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. Again, people complain about their standard. It's too hard to get by these days. But yet, inflation's such a big issue. But yet they keep voting for the same people over and over again. They keep doing the same stuff over and over again and expecting a different result. And they keep falling for the same garbage over and over again, right? They continue to believe the same people that have been lying to them for forever, basically, right? I mean, I don't want to get into specifics because that could get you in trouble. But again, number one, you need to accept that. This is another mistake that a lot of people make. They see these people making these same mistakes over and over again, and they do their damnedest to try and quote unquote help them, knowing that it's not going to help. So again, I'm not saying you don't try to help people at all. I would say if you think people are actually going to accept help, by all means, try to help them. But if people are hell-bent on doing what they're doing, let them make their mistake over and over again until they learn their lesson, right? Number 12, manage your emotions or they will manage you. Again, this is another one that I see so many people that they just can't do, right? That so emotional, like you just can't do it, right? People have these negative interactions, and they're all woe is me, and like all this garbage. Like, stop being so emotional, right? Stop being so emotional. It's not getting you anywhere. It's not benefiting anyone, right? Number 13, don't forget to sharpen your saw. Again, this is a figure of speech that I'm sure most people are aware of, but what it means is if you want to be a high achiever, if you want to grow, sometimes people get too caught up in going 100 miles an hour, and they don't stop for a second to fill up with gas, to tune things up, right? So that's a very important thing, right? That and again, another good way of doing this is that if you're trying to improve something and you're not getting there, well, you need to reevaluate. Like where am I going wrong? What can I do to change? And this is another thing that people really struggle with, and everyone struggles with it, right? Number 14, the longer your time horizon to get rich, the more likely it will happen. Again, this is another thing that again, and this piggybacks on the next one too. Deferring gratification is the key to long-term success. If you want to be successful at anything, you have to learn to defer gratification. If you want to be rich, you need to defer gratification. Right? If you want to lose weight, you got to defer gratification, because nobody, like I've never seen anyone who diets for a week. It's like, yeah, I'm good to go. Right? It doesn't happen. I've never seen anyone who saves money for a month. They're like, yeah, I've got enough money saved for a lifetime. Right? It does not happen. Right? You need to learn to defer gratification. Number 15, another one that if everybody practiced, society would be a hell of a lot better off. You're not entitled to anything. Right? You are not entitled to anything. Should you be? Maybe. But you're not entitled to anything. And again, if people just had that mindset, way too many people think that they're entitled to things nowadays. I mean, healthcare, other people's money, the list goes on and on. You are not entitled to anything. And again, piggybacking on number 11, people are going to learn that lesson the hard way, right? So try to not be in that group. 16, be more afraid of staying the same than you are of change. This is one you hear quite a bit, but I think is very important. That, again, too many people, the reason that they don't grow is that they're more afraid of change than they are of staying the same. Right? With most people, typically that the only way they do change is the point to where staying the same becomes so painful that they feel like they don't have another option, right? So I'm not saying you change just for the hell of it, but if you're not to grow, you need to change, right? It's just basic physics, basic math, right? If you're gonna grow, you need to change. The last one, getting rich is about becoming financially free and not clout, right? So again, what I mean by clout is showing off and all that kind of stuff, right? showing off on social media, buying the fancy cars, the fancy this, the fancy that, right? Personally, the reason that I invest, the reason that I save money is simply I want financial freedom, right? The feeling of never having to work again if you don't want is arguably the best feeling in the world. I mean, I can't think of anything that's more that I would rather obtain than that, right? So again, making money, all that kind of stuff, it is about becoming financially free, right? And too many people have this, again, the classic keeping up with the Joneses mentality. And a lot of times you don't blame people because, if you were in their position, like if everybody was just handed $1 million, like most people, they would blow that money within a year probably, right? But that's the real question, right? That's the real question. It's like, if you were given $1 million, now again, nowadays it's not that much money, but for a lot of people that would be enough money to retire on, right? If you're given $1 million, what would you do with it? Right? The majority of people would spend it on stupid crap, and they'd be broke within a year or two, right? Personally, right? This is a good thought experiment, I think. Personally, what would I do? I'd probably take 10% into Bitcoin, maybe half of it into maybe a couple condos or something like that, and I just pay a company to collect the rent and deal with the headaches. I'd maybe spend like $100,000, and the rest of it I put into the stock market. That's what I would do. But most people, they would blow that money so fast you wouldn't even know what happened to it, right? So again, those are my principles to live by. I think it's very important that, again, not that this is perfect by any means, that I'm the arbiter of morality or any of that kind of stuff. This is just my thoughts. So if you like the video, hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.